What is going on, YouTube? So coming back today with my Louisville Cardinals preview. So a team that went 8-5 in 2015, and a team that I think could dramatically improve heading into 2016. Finished third place in the Atlantic Division last year, projected to finish in the same place again this year by a lot of people. Also known to a lot of people as the sleeper of the ACC this year. At this point, I don't really know if they're the sleeper or if they're a sleeper as much as they are just a contender that's just a notch below Florida State and Clemson. So let's go ahead and start with the first of my three key players, and I've got the most important player for Louisville, Lamar Jackson. So he developed pretty well last year at the end of the season. Ended up pretty much completely taking over the Kentucky and Texas A&M games in which Louisville got victories in both. Looks like an electric dual-threat quarterback. I'm not going to compare him to Teddy Bridgewater. I talk about that on almost every video. I don't know why I keep talking about that, to be honest. I just feel like a lot of people compare the two, and they're just not similar. But this can be a very high-scoring Louisville offense. This is a Louisville offense that they're not just talented at quarterback. Lamar Jackson's going to have a lot of help. Brandon Radcliffe, Jeremy Smith, LJ Scott, they're all back this year to help out in the backfield. They also have Jamari Staples, James Quick returning at receiver. So now I'll turn to the defense, and I think the most important player on Louisville's defense is going to be Devontae Fields. He is a guy that obviously transferred from TCU. Actually, their two best players on defense, at least in my opinion, are both transfers. Now, you can take what you want from Devontae Fields' career, but I do think that he will be a first-round pick. I also think he's one of the better pass rushers in college football right now. Louisville has the makings, has the talent to have a very, very good defense this year. I think that's one of the more underrated parts of their team. They don't really function off the sacks, and quarterback pressure isn't really their biggest thing. Their biggest thing on defense is turnovers. But I do think that Devontae Fields is a guy that can lead a pass rush that could be pretty scary this year. So get into my next key player, and I've got the former Georgia transfer, Josh Harvey-Clemons. So Josh Harvey-Clemons actually has realized his potential at Louisville. Like I said, a part of that big secondary that just generates so many turnovers. I think he's going to have to be a big leader in that secondary, though, this year. I think they do. I think, again, another one of the underrated parts of Louisville that's not talked about too much is they have leaders at all three levels. Keith Kelsey, a linebacker, Devontae Fields leading the defensive line, and then Josh Harvey-Clemons leading all the defensive backs. Again, all levels are going to have to be functioning if Louisville wants to keep up with teams like Florida State, North Carolina, and Clemson, even though they don't play North Carolina this year, I don't think. So move into the first of my two X factors, and my first one, I already talked about it a little bit, but not too much in depth, and that is Lamar Jackson's development. Like I said, he came on strong late last year. I see him having a very successful 2016, as a lot of people expect from him. Now, to say that I expect that and then him doing it, obviously two different things. He has what he needs to have a successful season in 2016. I mentioned it earlier. They got a lot of good players at skill positions coming back. However, he is just heading into his sophomore season. Sophomore slumps are a thing, and that's something that he's going to obviously have to avoid. This team is relying very heavily on him this year to be able to succeed. A lot is on his shoulders. So my second X factor is a top-level defense, just top-notch defense. Like I said, they got leaders at all three levels. One of the bigger losses that I think could affect them is losing Sheldon Rankins. He was a very good defensive tackle in the middle, a very good anchor. He was a very good defensive tackle against the run. D'Angelo Brown will come in and replace him, and I think D'Angelo Brown is capable of at least filling the role. Like I said, leaders at all three levels, that's one of the things that's more underrated about some of the top-notch defenses in college football. You need that one guy at every level to kind of lead by example, but also just be an overall leader to be able to steer the defense at every level in the right direction. Now, moving to my trap game for Louisville, and I think it will be Marshall. It's hard to find a trap game on their schedule because it's actually I wouldn't say a friendly schedule, but they don't really have that many tough tests out of conference outside of Houston. Obviously, that's going to be a tough one, but I wouldn't really call that a trap game when they might not even be favored in that game. Marshall comes right in between Florida State and Clemson. It's on the road. It's in an extremely tough time. There's no bye weeks in between. It has all the makings of a trap game that could send Louisville into a 2-3 slide to start the season. That is a very important game because at least if they can get out of the first 5 games, maybe 3-2, hell, even if they pull off an upset 4-1, that is big for the rest of the season because the rest of the season they can handle the rest of the games. But Florida State and Clemson in 2 of the first 5 games, that's obviously that's a lot to handle. So transition very smoothly over into my biggest game, which I have Clemson. Like I said, I've said this over and over and over again. Obviously, it's pretty true. You want to be the best, you got to beat the best. And right now, Clemson is the best, not only out of the Atlantic Division, but out of the entire Atlantic Coast Conference. If Louisville wants to get to that top level, again, it's going to be hard. They're by no means the most talented team in this division. They do have a lot of talent. And I think I could see it happening. This team has something special to it. But you got to be able to knock Clemson off. And doing that on the road while Clemson has all this talent returning and is expected to be one of the top 2 teams in the country, that's not going to be easy at all. This might be Clemson's biggest home game, too, so it's not going to be something that they look past. Clemson doesn't have that many big home games this year, I'm pretty sure. So, going to my record prediction for Louisville. I think they will go 10-3. That might be a little optimistic. I see a 2-loss season. I honestly think they will be very good throughout the regular season. And then I think a bowl loss would be something that they're looking forward to. This is a team that's definitely flirting with 10 wins. There's no doubt about that. Go up and down their schedule. This is definitely a team that can go undefeated after the bye week, after the first 5 games of the season. Houston's going to be a tough game, no doubt, but I think they're a little bit pissed off about getting beat at home last year against Houston. I think that Houston, while they're probably close to the same talent level they had last year, I think Louisville's a lot better than they were last year, especially at that point, and they only lost by 3. You look at the rest of their conference games, NC State and Duke will provide decently tough tests. Boston College gave them a tough test last year, but I don't think that's going to happen again this year at all. We'll see how UVA is, and then Kentucky I don't think will be much of a challenge either. Neither will Wake Forest. Like I said, a very manageable schedule, a team that is a sleeper for a reason. So that pretty much concludes my Louisville preview. I'll be coming back later today with Florida State, so talking about another ACC Atlantic team. That's pretty much it. So yeah.